Welcome to another episode of Life's Beautiful Synergies. I'm your host, Dr. Rachel Bailey. Today we're diving into a topic that's changing the way we work, AI and IT, enabling smart people to do even smarter things. We're going to explore how technology can empower teams, streamline workflows, and more importantly, how to bring people along on the journey of IT adoption. It's not just about implementing the latest tool. It's about understanding the human side of change and ensuring that AI enhances, rather than replaces, the intelligence and creativity of our teams. Let's get started. So let's think about those humans. Right now, there is such an exponential expectation for our professionals. What they do, how fast they do it, how organized they are at work, what they produce, what they deliver. And then keep in mind mental health balance and keeping it all synergized with how many other things we juggle in our daily lives. We have to be able to bring the latest technology into our jobs, into our work, into our lives to keep up with the pace of tomorrow. Technology is changing, expectations are changing. So that human piece of being able to always look at the latest and greatest AI introduction, breakthrough from the eyes of the humans that need to use it. That's the lens that we need to always be looking at. And that's where that synergy becomes so very important. Think about this. Think about when you're a little kid and you went from the bike with the banana seat and the streamers hanging off your handlebars with the training wheels on the back to that 10 speed that had all those gears, all those gadgets, brakes on your hands instead of at your feet. Think about that learning curve that you went from driving that rickety old bike that got beat up to death to that really, really nice bike that was that next level that was going to bring you to school. What I want us to take away from today is that that transition is happening every day now in our professional lives. We're being asked to go from that bike with training wheels to a 10-speed bike and be able to stay on it, not crash, not wipe out, and be able to get on it and ride that bike quickly. Our adaptation and our ability to adapt at that speed is becoming more and more relevant so that we can do our jobs, we can function in the industries that we're in. And it is so very important that our minds are wired that way, that we're thinking of that way. But if we just think about it, let's say that we're the company that brings that new bike, or we're the parents that gave that new bike to that child that needs a better technology to get to school, then we forget about the human and training them on how to go from one experience or one way of working to another. And it's just so important that we think about who's going to be sitting on that bike. How are they going to use it? What are they going to have to think differently, right? To using your new technology, your new process that's fed by AI. It's a brain switch. It could be a time switch, but definitely it's embracing change. So that is why it's so important to bring the humans along on the ride with any kind of technology that you're introducing into their world. You want to make their world better? Don't forget about the person you're making the world better for. That's what I'd like everyone to be thinking about. One, I think us as just humans, I think we own that, right? Anytime that there's a change, it's scary, it's unknown, there's a bunch of ambiguity around it. But technology isn't going to take the place of humans. Technology is going to take the jobs from the humans that don't embrace technology. So it's up to us. We own adapting to it, understanding it, seeing how it fits in our own lives instead of just putting our hands up and saying, no, I don't want to be a part of that. I think it's dangerous. I think it's scary. I don't think it's the right thing to do. We got to find out how it fits into our lives, our home lives, our work lives, all the different roles that we have, and embracing it, finding out how it helps us to do all of the things that we have to do at such a fast pace nowadays. So I think that is my message, is that the tasks, the technology, all of this, everything you're hearing about AI in the news, it's intended to take away the muck so that we can focus on the magic. And that's where we want to spend our time and effort. How long would it take you to search the internet for every article on a certain topic. AI can bring it to you in milliseconds. ChatGPT can bring it to you in milliseconds so that you can go on and do the amazing thing that you were going to do with that data anyways. But it removes the hours and days and weeks of trying to bring all that big data together. That's just one example of how we shouldn't shy away from the technology. Don't think it's going to take your job. Don't think it's going to take your place. Think about how you are powered to find out where that AI is being developed that is relevant to the space that you're in. What brings you joy? What is your superpower? And how can AI enhance that, make it better, and help you to get back to the magic and less time in the muck? Change management is a significant part of the adoption and the rollout of AI. And us as leaders have a significant responsibility to make sure that that organizational change management, that it happens intentionally, that it happens purposely, and that we reduce the anxiety and the stress and the ambiguity of what this change, how it's going to affect our team members' daily lives. We own translating that. We own communicating that. But more importantly, we own being right there along with them on that journey of that adoption. So organizational change management cannot be forgotten in this hyper excited state that we're in with bringing AI into our everyday world. A pro tip here is really around the importance of how you can take the adoption of AI and break it down into those daily, step-by-step adoption of how it's going to fit into daily work. People need to see it. They need to be able to see how it affects their morning routine, their afternoon routine, how they submit reports, how they do just the daily what they do. And they need to understand, oh, it's not going to touch that part of your day or your role or that project that you're on. But in these 3 steps, it's going to remove that. It's going to create a workflow. It's going to eliminate you having to go out to 10 different places and pull in that data from 6 spreadsheets, 2 websites, and a SharePoint. They need to see it in their daily work. So when you're rolling out an adoption campaign for bringing in AI, don't forget about that daily breakdown so that the person that's going to be benefiting from the change can actually see where it's going to resonate in their day and in their life. Let me give you an example. So let's say we're bringing in a tool that helps to consolidate Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, work instructions, and it pulls all of that information and it puts it into a template that creates a proposal, maybe for your sales team, or maybe you have a group of engineers that are putting together a proposal to go out and build a product for a customer. It could take weeks for that same engineer or that same technician to go and find all of that information from your company portal, your company work instructions, previous engineering artifacts or diagrams, and bring all of that information into a pre-designed template. AI can do that for your technicians because guess what? You want to remove those days or weeks to market to have that proposal quicker, faster for your sales team, for your marketing team, or for your product development team that is in DevOps that needs to develop whatever product you want to put together or whatever proposal for a customer. Because your competition, they're using AI to do that. And if your technicians are still spending days or weeks or multiple hours going to all these different data sources to bring together what they need to go meet with your customer, to go bring that to your DevOps team, to go bring that to your quality control and get to the really important parts of the process, then you're delaying that ROI and you're delaying them to be able to do what they do because they're spending too much time on just gathering the data to put the proposal together. So that's just one example of how the utilization in AI in somebody's daily job removes clicks and checks and bringing that data together. So now let's spend a minute, let's talk about workflows. So take a particular business process. Maybe to kick it off, you need to go get an acceptance letter that went through an approval process with your security team. And then next it has to get routed to John to do something, check something, add some information from a customer portal. And then it has to route to Ben because he's going to add the engineering diagrams and the parts that need to go on the bill of material. And then it's going to route to Susie and she's going to do some tasks. And then it's going to come back to me and I'm going to complete 4 or 5 different tasks. And then it's going to get approved. And then the 2 or 3 steps after that can get triggered. Using AI to automate those workflows, not only moving from person to person, but also actually gathering that data from your company portal, from a SharePoint, from a database, from work instructions, and triggering it into a step by step that a human doesn't have to do the work and then put it on the next person's desk and then wait for them to sign off on it, that you can, with a lot of quality, of course, you have to do the quality checks, but so much of that can be facilitated through the use of artificial intelligence instead of having maybe a human spending 2 or 3 hours a week or maybe multiple hours a day just babysitting something that needs to go through a process that could very well be automated. That's just one example of utilizing workflows and AI in the background to bring the intelligence to help things go through whatever pipeline or workflow you have set up for your technicians or your staff. So once an AI solution has been identified, some of the key points that an organization should do when they're about ready to bring it to the humans that they brought the AI for, one is make sure that you really understand technology, understand the experience, demo it from end to end, create videos, create Yammer posts, whatever you utilize within your organization. Some companies use Slack, some people use Teams, whatever that might be. First, understand the demo of the project or the product. What is it going to be used for? And show it in a use case that's tailored to that group that's going to be using it. Then second, let a group of early adopters, those folks that love technology, that are always looking, or the ones that have been complaining to you for a really long time that something is broken and they're so tired of working and spending money on or time on non-value added effort, go to them first. Let them test the technology and let them give you feedback. Well, this part's great. I don't really like this. This is 3 more clicks than I used to do, but I'm willing to do it because you saved me an hour over here. Get their feedback. And I'm going to pause here. This is really important. Listen to their feedback. If you ask for someone's opinion and their feedback, and then you don't actually incorporate it, it's worse than not asking in the first place. So if you're going to ask and not do anything with it, please don't even ask. Don't put the false hope out there. Okay, so that's 3. Once you have their feedback, then go adjust. Go adjust the training materials, go adjust the adoption campaign, go adjust how you're going to roll it out to the rest of the teams. But let those early adopters be your evangelists. See if they would be willing to record a 2 or 3 minute video. See if they would be willing to be in a couple of those training sessions or in your adoption roadshow, and then have an adoption roadshow. Tailor it. Let's say you have an engineering group, you have a manufacturing group, you have a sales team. Sit down in those small groups and tailor your conversation and your trainings to their use case. Don't be so generic that you don't let it be relatable to the person that's going to be using this technology. And if it's a really small group, that makes it easy. Your roadshow is like one group. But for those of you that are in bigger organizations or have more diversity within the groups that will be using the same technology, my strong recommendation is that you tailor your presentation to how they're going to use that technology. And then last but not least, you have to be consistent with sharing the communication of what's worked. What are people telling you? Have a frequently asked questions. Have a whole SharePoint where you have the training videos, the work instructions, everything they need to put their hands on because this is not a shocker. I'm going to pause again. People consume change differently. There is a psychological transformation, and there's specific phases that we all go through when we are approached with a change. And not every one of your tribe that is going to be taking on this technology is going to follow that curve at the same time, and definitely not as fast as maybe your early adopters. So have a place where everybody can go and communicate it like crazy. Advertise it, communicate it so that they know where to go. They can feel caught up. They can feel like it's transparent. And then I would even recommend to set up a chat, some kind of hypercare where people can go to a channel or a chat and they can say, hey, I'm raising my hand here. I have a question about XYZ, or this isn't quite working for me, or I'm from a special team that has a use case and it doesn't seem to be working as instructed, or it keeps timing out on me, or I can't log in from my phone and I'm a mobile employee. So this is a place where people feel that they can quickly get unstuck with whatever technology you're rolling out. Because supposedly you're rolling it out to make their job better. But what if you're not nailing that? So you want to have a place where they feel like they come and they can give you a voice. And then let's talk about that last tip. So the last tip is transparent measurement. When you bring in technology, I hope that before you even started deciding what technology to bring in your organization, you were solving for a problem statement. And you weren't just bringing in technology because it was cool and there was a great commercial and everybody around you was doing it. I hope you had a good business reason. You had a problem statement with your team that you were trying to solve, or to keep up with the industry, or to make sure that you are meeting your financial obligations to your stakeholder, whatever that reason. Anytime you roll out change and you bring in technology to help, you got to measure that. You got to say, okay, here's the threshold. Here's the baseline where we started. Here's the villain. Here's the pain point. Here's the villain that we were trying to slay. And look, week 1 of adoption went down a tiny bit, but only 5 people adopted. Fast forward 3 months, look at that trend line. Look at where our baseline is today with 50% adoption. Where would we be in X, Y, and Z measurement if we had 80% adoption, 90% adoption? And that's how you make sure that as a leader, you bring in technology with purpose and you share that with the team. That will help them to truly lean in and trust you the next time you want to bring in the latest and greatest technology that, and I'm doing air quotes for those of you that are listening, is going to help them do their job better. Let's make sure that the AI you bring in brings your people along and truly makes their job better. So the flip side of an intentional AI rollout is going to look much different. If you as a leader are seeing you have that problem statement, you have the villain, but sometimes we don't always look for the right hero. Sometimes we find the hero that is just, maybe it's something that your company has brought in for another team. Maybe it's some kind of AI that is in the industry right now and everybody's doing it. So you feel like if you don't bring it in, you'll be behind in the game. And so the thing to keep your eye out on is if you do bring in technology and you haven't thought about the villain, you haven't thought about and been extremely intentional of those phases of the psychological transformation of change and going through the different cycles, going through those adoption steps that I was just mentioning. The flip side is your teams they can feel very overwhelmed and they can get stuck in the denial, the defense, the discarding of change, and just flat out angry compliance. I define angry compliance as my boss is making me, I'm getting shamed because they can track how often I go into the tool, and we're being threatened, we're being shamed, or there's things that are going away with the assumption that we're using this tool. And then you get stuck with a group of angry adopters. And that's the last thing you want, is a team that is begrudgingly utilizing whatever AI you brought in and just kind of dropped on their desk with no instructions, no encouragement, no logic, no intentionality, and no support. So think about that the next time you're tempted to buy that shiny thing in the window. Make sure that you're chasing the right solution for the right reason. Because the flip side can really get your teams to be less open to trusting you with the next AI that may very well be the right one, but they just had such a bad taste in their mouth from the last couple of change experiences that you'll have to work extra hard just to build their trust again. Trust is a big piece here. And if you do the flip side of good change management, sometimes you break that trust. So some things that a manager can do when they're introducing new technology is to be very upfront from the very beginning and always tying it back to the villain, always tying it back to that higher level business process, business solution, a problem, or a KPI, right? Maybe you have a sales team that has to hit a certain quota every month, or the company doesn't meet its revenue expectations for the quarter. And you know all the downstream ramifications of that. So tying the change back to higher level principles, higher level KPIs, higher level vision and strategy, and making sure that that connection is really clear at every phase in the change adoption is really important. Because when people lose sight of why are we even doing this, then they waste energy trying to figure out why am I doing this when I see on the company portal only these 3 things are in the vision. I don't see where this fits in anywhere to the vision, the strategy, even our core principles. And they spend a lot of wasted mind churn. You know, mind churn. It's those thousands of words a minute that you tell yourself that you don't even know you're saying. You don't want to cause extra mind churn for your team, not with something as important as AI adoption. So we talked a little bit about angry compliance, and this kind of refers back to the sentiment spectrum. So the sentiment spectrum is where you have change adopters that are anywhere from active resistance or angry compliance to neutral, totally unaware, maybe they didn't get the company memo, to championing the change. You're going to have people in each one of those categories in some phase of that spectrum. Please be ready for that. Be prepared for that. And don't be offended when you have people in those 3 categories. It is part of the psychological adaptation to change. But when you find that you have those that are actively resisting the change, I want you to do one thing. And those of you that are watching me, I am picking up something and I am moving it to someplace else. You need to go to where those angry compliance or active resistors are, and you need to take away and understand and own why are they resisting. And some of it you can take over back to the development team and you can get a solution. You can take that off of their shoulders, because think about this. This is a weight on their shoulders. If they are actively resisting the change, that is extra energy from the brilliant minds of your technicians, your engineers, your professional staff. That is extra weight on their brain that you put there. You put there when you introduced a change. So if they're actively resisting it, you own, as the change leader in your organization, you own finding out why. Why do they hate it? Why are they resisting it? And don't have an ego to think it's because they don't understand it. It's because they're just those kind of people that just resist everything, that they're not, please excuse us, but maybe they're not smart enough to understand the benefit of it. Just take your leadership ego and put it away. Go to those active resistors and find out why. Sometimes they just really don't want to change. And you need to be ready for that. You need to have a company expectation for where do you draw the line in the sand? Where do you put your foot down? How important is it for you to have 100% adoption? You need to know that before you even start your change. Let me just be clear on that one. But that's another thing to think about when you're looking at everyone on your team that you're introducing a change, especially something as new as AI, just always think about, why are they resisting? Maybe it's something that you missed in the product's capabilities. Maybe it's something that the developers didn't think about adding something. Maybe they didn't think about removing 10 or 15 clicks, or the tool timing out after 2 minutes. Maybe that has gotten them so frustrated that they're discarding every other good part of that application because they hate the fact that every 2 minutes they have to log in again. But if you don't ask them, if you don't go find out and then do something with that feedback, it's going to be really hard to move the needle so that they stop spending that extra human effort on resisting that change, instead of just, it's such a more happy place to be championing the change. We all want our teams to be there. But before you kick off a change, know you're going to have people on that pathway, and know what is going to be your approach for each one of them, whether they're active resistance, neutral or unaware, and that's a training issue, right? Or if they're true champions. And there's a different strategy for each one of those folks that you're bringing this change to. The trends that I'm seeing is that it's just going to continue to break glass. AI is going to continue to improve at the speed of tomorrow. It is going to break barriers that we didn't even know that we had. It's going to change the way we're thinking about big data, first and foremost. How do we consume big data? How do we utilize it in our products, in our service, in our Olympic athletes training? How do we look at stats? How do we look at body movement? The possibilities are endless. But keeping up with that, one, from a security standpoint, big data has to be consumed at an organizational level, at a compliance and a security level that has to equal the speed and the energy and the technology by which it's growing. And we can't let go and let off the gas of our security protocols in our enthusiasm to embrace technology. So I want to encourage you, keep those security best practices, be thinking about it, adjusting them, get a security team that is well-versed in AI and in technology and in what is being out there. Because right now there is not a lot of policy for stuff because it hasn't been developed yet. Fast forward to January, you're going to have technology in the environment and there will be no policy or no organizational guidance to make sure that we don't do things unintentionally irresponsible from a company perspective. So my encouragement is always think about, we talked about villains and heroes before. There are villains and heroes also out there looking at your company data, looking at your team's data, and you don't want to be on the other end of a bad actor trying to take advantage of the speed and the enthusiasm by which you're bringing in technology. So as an organizational leader, and those of us consuming it and doing it in our everyday job, always think about the security piece, keeping your own data safe, whether this is technology you're bringing into your personal life, but also just always have that in the back of your head when you bring in technology into a new place. So my advice as we wrap up today's episode is to always be thinking about how to tie that connection between the conversations and the enthusiasm in your organization's C-suite, and that it translates to the daily work very intentionally of the teams that are bringing the magic, the teams that are utilizing and taking that AI and bringing it into their workflows, bringing it into their daily work, bringing it into how they bring a product to market faster. Just make sure that you're very intentional about taking those C-suite visions of being the leader in AI in your field and in your industry, and that you as a leader are that connection, that magical connection point between all the excitement that's happening at that level and how the humans that this work is supposed to be helping, that it actually translates to them, that there is an intentional adoption and organizational change management that's happening so that they can see, they can feel, and you can bring them along on this change. That is my advice that I would like to leave with you today. That's the end of our episode of Life's Beautiful Synergies. Make sure to subscribe and join us for our next episode. Stick around for a behind the scenes clip of me and one of my producers discussing